Hello everyone, welcome back to Time News. Today, in a major surprise, Vladimir Putin has not only congratulated Donald Trump on his election victory, but he also delivered some shocking praise, calling Trump a courageous man after an assassination attempt during the campaign. What's Putin's real motive here? What could this surprising alliance mean for the future of Ukraine and the rest of Europe? Imagine the world's two biggest political powerhouses opening a new dialogue. Will they stop the Russia-Ukraine war? Are we looking at a major shift in U.S. Russia relations, one that could reshape the future of international security? And the most serious thing, will NATO survive his policies? Will Europe be forced to choose between the U.S. and its own security? There are so many questions running through your mind, and I have a lot of news and very important details that will benefit you greatly, because everything that is said in the media is just a line in the story, but I must tell you the main story from the beginning. Let's start with Putin's congratulatory message to Trump. During a discussion in Sochi, the Russian president didn't just acknowledge Trump's win. He expressed outright admiration for how Trump handled a recent assassination attempt in Pennsylvania. According to Putin, Trump showed himself courageously and acted like a man, as he put it.
Я, пользуясь случаем, хочу поздравить его с избранием на пост президента Соединенных Штатов Америки. Я уже говорил, что мы будем работать с любым главой государства, которому окажет доверие американский народ. Так будет действительно и на практике. Ну, во-первых, я вам могу сказать, его поведение в момент покушения на его жизнь, я не знаю, но на меня произвело это впечатление. Он мужественный человек оказался. У меня такое впечатление, что его затравили со всех сторон, не давали ему пошевелиться. Он боялся шаг сделать влево, вправо, лишнее слово сказать. Если кто-то из них захочет возобновить контакты, я всегда говорил, хочу еще раз сказать, мы ничего против не имеем. Пожалуйста, будем контакты возобновлять и вискать.
This praise may seem innocuous, but there's likely more to it. Putin's words seemed carefully chosen to appeal to Trump's known preference for strong, supportive language. Putin went as far as to say he's ready for dialogue with Trump, a statement that immediately sent shockwaves through European capitals. What's particularly interesting is that Putin also highlighted Trump's stance on Ukraine and U.S. Russia relations. Putin pointed to Trump's desire to improve relations with Russia and end the Ukrainian crisis. This has many in Europe, especially Kyiv, on edge. For Ukrainian officials and their NATO allies, the idea of dialogue with Russia may sound like a dangerous move. NATO leaders argue that strong support for Kyiv is essential for both European and American security. But here's where things get even more concerning. During his campaign, Trump mentioned he could bring peace to Ukraine in 24 hours, a claim that seems overly optimistic given the complex situation on the ground. Critics fear that Trump's plan might involve simply advising Ukraine to concede to Russia, potentially handing over key territories. Reports indicate that one of the ideas within Trump's circle is to freeze the front lines of the conflict where they currently stand. This approach would mean no further military advances but would likely force Kyiv to abandon its ambition of NATO membership for at least 20 years. This kind of freeze deal might reduce immediate conflict but could also mean that Ukraine remains in a state of limbo, with significant areas of its territory effectively under Russian control. What makes this particularly alarming is the broader geopolitical context. NATO's Secretary General, Mark Rutte, pointed out that a coalition of adversarial nations, Russia, North Korea, Iran, and China, are working together against Ukraine. Rutte warns that if Trump scales back support for Ukraine, it could strengthen this coalition, which poses a growing threat not just to Europe but to the US itself. Rutte stressed that North Korea, for example, could eventually become a direct threat to the US if this alliance with Russia deepens. North Korea has already been reportedly receiving military technology from Russia, which might eventually reach a point where it could threaten American territories. Trump's relationship with Putin has been a point of debate throughout the election. Kamala Harris, his opponent, even suggested that Putin would eat him for lunch. When asked about this comment, Putin's spokesperson laughed it off, saying, "Putin does not eat people."
Quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch. Quickly you would give up for the sake of favor.
But the sentiment remains. There's a lot of concern over Trump's approach to dealing with Putin and the Kremlin. But perhaps the most concerning part is the situation on the ground in Ukraine. After nearly 3 years since Russia's full-scale invasion, Ukraine is exhausted, and many analysts believe negotiations might be inevitable. However, Putin's conditions for peace involve a neutral Ukraine that doesn't join NATO, and he expects Ukraine to give up any areas Russia currently occupies. This isn't just about neutrality. Putin is essentially saying that Ukraine's sovereignty over its own borders isn't up for debate. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky, however, remains defiant. He calls these calls for a ceasefire dangerous and irresponsible, insisting that Ukraine needs a clear security guarantee rather than vague promises. In Budapest, Zelensky argued that any plan for peace must ensure Ukraine's long-term security. This isn't just a war for territory, it's about Ukraine's very existence and autonomy. He warned that a ceasefire without a genuine security plan would simply open Ukraine up to more future invasions. So, what can we expect? It's hard to say exactly how Trump's leadership might change the dynamic, but European leaders, and especially Ukraine, have every reason to be wary. If Trump follows through on scaling back U.S. support, it could shift the balance of power in Europe and beyond. One thing is clear, this isn't just about Trump and Putin. It's about a potential shift in the global balance, with Russia, North Korea, Iran, and China possibly finding common ground against Western interests. We're looking at a complex chessboard with the stakes at an all-time high. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more insights into global news and developments. But before you go, I want to hear from you. Do you think Trump's approach to Russia and Ukraine will create new opportunities for peace, or will it only escalate tensions further? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and let's discuss.